With offensive line, a big question already this offseason. The Sooners took a hit on the interior. We'll talk about that and more on today's episode of Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. New customers join today and make every moment more, and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. I'm John Williams. You can follow me on Twitter at John9Williams. My buddy here is Josh Helmer. You can follow him on Twitter at JoshOnRef. You can also hear him Monday through Friday from 9 to noon on the KREF Sports app. And Josh, the big story of the week. We knew that Troy Everett was injured in practice a week ago, but we didn't know the severity. We didn't really have a lot of detail as to what happened, what the concern was. Well, Brent Venables, meeting with the media on Tuesday evening, mentioned that on Wednesday, Troy Everett was going to have surgery, and they expected him to be out until the end of fall camp, which puts the Sooners in a bit of a bind. You already had a lot of offensive line turnover that you're going to have to deal with this offseason. Now you're losing one of the guys that actually has a few starts under his belt at the center position, and you're going to have to figure out what to do there. Now you got guys that you can turn to, but it's a big loss in spring ball already.
Yeah, it's not great news, obviously, for Oklahoma. We knew that he was dealing with something and really didn't know the severity of it. And to some degree, we, I guess, still don't necessarily know the total severity of what Troy Everett is dealing with, but we know that it's enough to require surgery, and we know that it's enough to limit him until basically things are about to get going for Oklahoma in 2024. So, you look at the offensive line as a whole, and really everywhere is a question mark across the offensive line for Oklahoma. Offensive tackle, you want to have questions there? Okay, understandable. Offensive guard, you want to have questions there? Okay, understandable. Center, you want to have questions there? Understandable. And out of all of that, though, even with a healthy Troy Everett, I could probably make a pretty good argument that center is the position out of the, well, if you want to call them 5 positions, or if you want to call it 3 positions, tackles, guards, center, where maybe you felt the most uneasy about where Oklahoma was at. So with that sort of as the backdrop to this, John, it's damaging news for Troy Everett, it feels like. But hey, I could try and give you a elevator speech of my weaknesses are actually my strengths here. And this gives us a chance to now get some serious run for Josh Bates, for Aisosa, to, as you alluded to, and as Coach touched on, Gametime Hatchett now gets an opportunity here for Oklahoma more quickly. So I don't quite know what to make out of it, other than probably I'm leaning that, this is probably your projected starter that now is he going to be really ready to go when you boot the season off?
I feel like by the time that you're looking at the end of fall camp, you probably have an answer at center, or at least you know what you're going to go with, and you're going to see how that plays out. It's not going to be Troy Everett just comes back and then just automatically gets right back into the starting lineup unless nothing is going well at center. But with the options that they have, we mentioned Josh Bates, friend of the show. We had him on multiple times while he was still in high school, getting ready for his career at Oklahoma. Brent Venables just called him a good football player, one of the toughest people that they have on the team. I think that bodes well for the center position going into the SEC, that you're, 1, a good football player, and 2, that you're tough. So we'll see how that transpires through the rest of spring ball, how he performs in the spring game. Same with Josh Aisosa. I mean, Josh Aisosa, we've heard talk that maybe a Eugene Brooks could spend some time at center as well. Both those guys are freshmen. They're getting their feet wet at the collegiate level. Gametime Hatchett, he's got a little bit of collegiate experience, but not a lot. But yeah, losing Troy Everett, that's a lot of experience. A guy that's been around the block quite a bit now. He played in a big game against Texas A&M, and they played well. on the ground in that game against the Aggies. So, back when he was still with Appalachian State. So this is a guy that's got some experience that you're not going to have now in your offensive line, at least. Who knows when he'll be ready to roll and fully up to speed to be a part of that offensive line in the fall. But, you go back to a guy like Josh Bates, and there is a tenacity and a toughness and a physicality that he does play with. Now, he just hasn't gotten on the field very much. And the same is true for a lot of those younger offensive linemen. They just haven't seen the field much, but that doesn't mean that they're not ready to take that step. We saw Jacob Sexton. He started to emerge, and a lot of people are considering him your starting left tackle going into 2024. A Jake Taylor, another guy that hadn't really seen the field a whole lot. Heath Ozida, Logan Howland. You're hearing Brent Venables talk about all these young guys who are making strides and taking steps that are going to be impactful players, either as a starter or as a rotational piece in that offensive line room. So why not Josh Bates, and why can't this be his time? To me, he's got the mentality to go in and seize that job with that opportunity that he's got before him now.
Somebody's going to have to do it. Clearly they need to make some legitimate strides. How alarming is this for you, just big picture for Oklahoma? Because offensive line is probably, to most that are living this, the largest question for OU. Now, maybe some folks nationally would come in and say, okay, well, we need to see about Jackson Arnold, and on and on and on, right? That would be the first place other than offensive line. But there might be a couple of areas that folks that aren't here living this day after day after day, they might not say offensive line, but I think most here would. And so with that sort of hanging around, how alarming is this for OU? Is this the starting center that now is not necessarily going to be ready for the start of the year?
And to me, it's alarming just because the center plays such an important role in protection setups, in communicating with the quarterback, in making sure the guards know where they're going to be blocking. There's such a feel also for the combo blocks. And guys like, Gabe Eichert could go into a little bit more detail on this, but just timing and feel and chemistry and continuity, that kind of stuff matters. When you're doubling a guy on the interior, and either you or the guard have to have that timing down on when to release to get to the second level and go block that linebacker or that safety that's down there in the box. A lot of that there's a feel to it. There's an experience that comes with that Troy Everett's going to have. And again, he's played in some big games, and having that guy that has played in a lot of big games is going to benefit your young quarterback, who is also now going to be a starter for the first time for a full season. He's got the start under his belt against Arizona, but now he's going to be the legit starter. Having a veteran center, or at least a veteran offensive lineman, taking the snap or giving you the snap and helping you set those protections. That kind of stuff matters, but that doesn't mean that Bill Bedenbaugh can't get one of these younger guys, whether it's Bates or Aisosa or Hatchett or a Eugene Brooks or another wild card name that's out there that we don't know yet. It doesn't mean he can't get them up to speed. It just means, okay, things are changing a little bit, and there's going to be an adjustment that has to be made. And hey, you guys are on the fast track now. There's no, it's Troy Everett's job, and you got to sit around and wait. And not that these guys were, I'm sure that they were, taking every opportunity to improve their mental, do the mental reps, have their mental capacities up to speed so they can be that leader of the offensive line room. But now it's fast forwarded a little bit. It's different when you're getting those, second, third team, scout team reps versus getting the first team reps, and you're going up against a Dejon Terry and, a Grayson Halton and seeing those guys on the interior, and you're going to have to not only know what you're supposed to do, but then be effective in what you're supposed to do. The game changes a little bit. And so losing Troy Everett, I think that matters. We'll see how everybody responds and who steps up. But anytime you lose a guy with some experience, even albeit it's not a lot of starting experience, it is some. And like Thanos, or like Loki tells Thanos in Avengers Infinity War, experience is experience. Good or bad, experience does matter. So we'll see how it all plays out, though, over the rest of the spring as we get to fall camp. Hopefully Troy Everett can heal like Captain America, get a little soldier serum in him, and he can bounce back a little bit quicker than the end of fall camp. But the Sooners are getting good news on the recruiting trail. Defensive lineman, cornerback, all things trending toward Oklahoma right now. We'll talk about that next, coming up here on Locked On Sooners.
The sports calendar, it's loaded up, and FanDuel's making it even more exciting to get in on the action. Why is that? Well, that's because right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you could use to bet on the Final Four, Major League Baseball, the NBA playoffs right around the corner, NHL, same for them, NHL playoffs right around the corner, and so much more. Visit fanduel.com/lockedon to make your first bet a big win. That's FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Couple of the odds out there on the Final Four on the women's side of the equation. Iowa, 2.5-point favorite over UConn. South Carolina, 11.5-point favorite over North Carolina State. And what about on the men's end of the equation? Well, it's Purdue, a 9.5-point favorite over NC State. UConn, a healthy 11.5-point favorite over Alabama. I kind of like that Bama number a little bit. I know that obviously UConn's the juggernaut right now, but I don't know that Alabama's going quietly into the night. But FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
And all of our recruiting segments here are brought to you by LinkedIn on the Locked On College Network. Also, Locked On has launched its first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's also available on the Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now, available on the free Fire TV channels app. Josh, let's start with the not so surprising future cast that came in. Maliek Hawkins, the cornerback out of Frisco Emerson, obviously little brother of Michael Hawkins, the son of former Oklahoma Sooner and Green Bay Packers defensive back Mike Hawkins. He's been trended and projected to Oklahoma for some time. So seeing another projection come in favoring the Sooners just the other day, that's not all that surprising. But he's a guy that, okay, he hasn't been rated by everybody, but at Rivals, he's a 4-star prospect. Over at On3, they're considering him a 3-star guy, a 4-star in the On3 industry ranking, and then a 3-star according to On3. But the number 32 cornerback in the country according to Rivals. But athletic dude, good size, 6'1", 175. He's going to bring it. He knows what he's going to have to do to get on the field at the collegiate level. He's not going to be ignorant or under any illusion about what it takes to be a star in college football and make it to the next level with the pedigree that he has.
Well, right. He's got the familial pedigree where they've been there, done that. And this is a discussion for another show on another day. But if you've been paying attention to any of the buzz throughout spring ball, big bro's starting to turn some heads, Michael Hawkins. And so if this individual is cut from that cloth, and, oh, by the way, this individual is cut from that same cloth and that type of pedigree, then look, if 24/7 Sports or a couple of people don't view Maliek Hawkins as this can't-miss blue chipper right now, that's okay. Let's go ahead and toss the flyer out. 6'1", 180, can run and go cover guys. Obviously, there are some strong positive opinions out there as well on Maliek Hawkins, but don't get totally turned off by the maybe not consensus positive opinions.
Well, and this is also one of those guys that it seemed like once the offer to Michael Hawkins came through, I remember talking to Parker Thune not long after that offer to Michael Hawkins came in. Parker put in a projection for Maliek to Oklahoma, because that's how confident everybody felt like that was the direction this was all going to go for everybody. Now nothing is settled, no commitment's been made, nothing's final, but I mean, it's for a long, long time. It looks like it's been Oklahoma's recruitment to lose, but he's a physical player too. Don't let just the 175 size or the weight that's listed fool you. I mean, he's a physical dude that's going to come up and stick players, receivers, running backs. I mean, he total package at cornerback. And I'm really, really excited to be getting him potentially, if all the projections hold up, potentially as part of that 2025 recruiting cycle. The other big news that came in over the last couple of days, 4-star defensive lineman Trent Wilson out of Upper Marlboro, Maryland. You can tell I never smoked. I can't say Marlboro. Maryland, and projections from everywhere. Steve Wiltfong, now of On3. There's breaking news right there. Chad Simmons of On3. Several Penn State recruiting analysts, Oklahoma recruiting analysts. It's like 6 or 7 or 8 different projections at this point. I can't name them all. Have all predicted Trent Wilson, the 4-star defensive lineman, to land with the Oklahoma Sooners. Now, this kid has got, I think it's like 17 offers between Big Ten and SEC schools, if I remember my count right. But Penn State, Ohio State, I want to say Alabama was in on it as well. Texas A&M, obviously Oklahoma, Texas, and then it goes even out to the West Coast. A lot of teams wanted this kid, and right now it looks like he's trending towards the Sooners.
So Fong bombs are now through On3. That's officially official?
Yeah, that came down on April Fools, and we all of us, my guys over at Sooners Wire, were talking about like, is this for real? For real? And then Steve Wiltfong retweeted it, and then it's stuck. So yeah, Steve Wiltfong no longer 247 Sports, and now with On3.
Okay. Well, okay. A very interesting aside. Yeah, obviously Trent Wilson's got a nice little collection of offers, which you would expect for somebody of his ilk and magnitude, defensive lineman with blue chip talent around him. OU, Ohio State, you ran down most of the names. I'm looking right at them. Penn State, A&M, Alabama, Auburn, Florida State, Georgia. Let's see, continuing on, Michigan, Nebraska, Notre Dame, Oregon. So just about everybody you could think of, Texas, USC, all of the big programs are in the mix here for Trent Wilson out of Upper Marlboro, Maryland. And so obviously if you can win that recruitment for this type of defensive lineman, how many times have we said it, but these are the types of recruitments that you got to stack. And if Oklahoma can do that, and they've been able to do that now all of a sudden with the David Stones, Jaden Jacksons of the world, and I could keep running down the list of edge guys and other defensive tackles, et cetera, but you catch the drift. Oklahoma's been recruiting defensive linemen better. This would be another one of those types of names.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a dude with a good first step. He's a quick twitch player, but he also plays with good physicality. He's able to hold up at the point of attack. He looks to me like he could play a bit of a tweener role, like a Nigel Smith, where he's, a defensive end on run downs in a 4-man alignment, or a defensive end in 3-man fronts, or could bump inside and play some defensive tackle in 4-man fronts as well. I really like his game. It's the quickness, that ability to dart through the line of scrimmage. He can play a legit 3-tech, or if you need him to play a little bit more outside, he can do that as well. But definitely a one gap kind of a player where you're just saying, hey, you go between the guard and the tackle. That's your gap. That's your lane. Get upfield in a hurry and make some plays in the backfield. I think he's a really, really intriguing prospect. And, Todd Bates, Miguel Chavis, they do a really good job recruiting the East Coast and the Southeast. So it's no surprise to me that they're able to move the needle, because they offered him, from what I can tell, back in January. So it's not like this has been a really, really long recruitment, at least based on what, the reported offer or timeline is saying. And Oklahoma was immediately in his top 8. So this is one of those moves that it just looks like it's going to be a fit for everybody involved. And I mean, we're going to see a commitment come on April 10th. He's already set his commitment date. So it's, again, not going to be a very, very long recruitment. Hopefully it does end up landing with the Oklahoma Sooners and it doesn't swing back to Penn State or Ohio State. But with all of these projections that have come in, and not just from Oklahoma recruiting analysts, but guys that cover recruiting for Penn State as well, and the national analysis as well, dude, if I were putting in crystal balls and I don't even think I'd need to have any inside info. Just based on all the tea leaves that you're reading, it looks like it's going to be Oklahoma. So again, another blue chip prospect that Oklahoma's added year after year after year under Todd Bates and Miguel Chavis.
Hey, one other note on Maliek Hawkins. I don't think we mentioned this. His commitment ceremony is coming up. It's on April 10th at noon. So probably, I mean, if everything's, if what we've been led to believe is true, probably we're going to get good news very, very quickly.
Yeah, man, it's going to be great. This summer is going to be so low key compared to summers in the past with recruiting that everything's coming up Oklahoma right now. And that's good. No more complaining about where's Oklahoma's commitments. No, this 2025 class is coming together really nicely. They're number 2 in the SEC recruiting ranks at the moment. Number 6, I believe, in 247 Sports national team rankings. Did you have one more thought on this, Josh?
Yeah, get that positivity out of here. What are you talking about? There's nothing to worry about. We will find plenty to be concerned about over the summer.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. Yeah, I mean, how come we haven't signed, 10 players to the 2026 class yet? Like, what's up with that? So, but coming up, we do have some basketball concerns. There's, however you want to look at it, whichever way you want to look at what's going on with Oklahoma men's hoops, it's got to be a little bit concerning. How are you going to field a team? We'll discuss coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
Fire TV, it's your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with their smart TVs, as well as their Fire TV stick that you can just plug right in and go on your existing TV. It provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Plus, did you know that Fire TV recently created their Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free? That includes all of us right here at the Locked On Network. Most of the big pro leagues, college conferences, you name it, Fire TV channels let you dive into all of the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on all of the latest in the world of sports. So if you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, well, you should. Trust us on this. Learn more, visit www.amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV.
So the Oklahoma Sooners lost another one to the transfer portal. Javian McCollum joins Milos Uzan, Otega Owe, and John Hughley. They had also lost to eligibility, Rivaldo Soares and Latre Darthard. It's hard not to be concerned. Now, I get what some of the folks are saying out there. Hey, this team wasn't good enough to make it to the NCAA tournament. Why would you be concerned about those players leaving? The problem that I kind of come back to is just the constant having to rebuild, the disjointed nature of roster building for this team. Now, you do have some pieces coming back. Jalen Moore, who is one of my favorite players on this team, just from his ability to finish, his ability to rebound. He's a good defender, can defend the 3 or the 4. I really, really like his game, and I kind of would like to see Porter Moser build his offense a little bit more around a guy like Jalen Moore, who can get to the basket and is physical and plays with a lot of tenacity. But, I mean, you have no guards that have played significant minutes for you at this point. You're needing a big. You need to get a guy that can play the 5, that can push Sam Godwin to the 4. You need a shooting guard. So where's all this going to come from? You hope you're going to be able to rebuild through the transfer portal, but at this point you've lost a lot. And I was okay kind of letting Milos Uzan go. I was a little bit bummed about Otega Owe because I really like his game as well. John Hughley, I thought, was a good rotational piece, being able to play the 5 and the 4. But the Javian McCollum thing, to me, that's the biggest loss of the offseason so far.
Yeah, it's the feels like if it hasn't fully burst, it feels like it's going in that direction. And it's just time and time again throughout the Porter Moser era. Unfortunately, this has been the way of things. I will say, if you go through and survey the Elite 8, the Final 4 squads, believe it or not, most everybody involved late in the tournament, save for like a Duke, they built a lot of it through the transfer portal. So all hope is not lost, but Oklahoma's going to have to get busy. I will reserve total judgment until the musical chairs have fully shuffled. But look, I'm like you. For folks out there that are saying, whatever, there's a bunch of guys off a team that didn't make the tournament. Well, they were the last team, the first team out. So they, without some bid stealers, they were in the NCAA tournament. And oh, by the way, you're talking about your top 2 scorers in Javian McCollum, in Otega Owe. We don't really know that Jalen Moore's sticking yet, by the way. So that's not determined that he's definitively staying. So until I'm proven that he is in fact staying, I'm officially concerned that he's not going to be staying, given the way that things have typically gone the last couple of years for Oklahoma. Soares, that was your number 4 scorer. He's gone. Uzan, number 5 scorer. He's gone. Hughley, number 6 scorer, he's gone. Darthard, just down the board, he's gone. So all this production you've lost, yes, I'm very concerned with what's going to happen for Oklahoma. Again, I'll reserve the total judgment until we figure out, is Oklahoma going to be substantially additive out of the transfer portal? But as of where we stand right now, which is all we can go off of, boy, this does not look great.
Now, Porter Moser and his staff have done a really, really good job retooling through the portal each of the last 2 years, and this year was the best team that they'd had. But when all those productive players and your top scorers leave, it leaves a little bit to be desired. What you want to do is kind of mitigate some of those losses by being able to retain a Javian McCollum and then add to that, and then be able to build around a McCollum more. The only reason I feel confident that Jalen Moore's back is because they're using him in a lot of their promotion work with the university. So that's not always going to be foolproof either. Here today, gone tomorrow sort of a thing in today's college sports world. But yeah, you got to figure out a way. I mean, are you going to build around the freshmen you didn't really play this year, Jacob Cole and Caden Cooper? Are you going to give them significant minutes next year? Are you saying, hey, those are our guys, we're just going to go with them? And for better or worse, I don't really feel like Porter Moser has the leash to, or maybe he doesn't feel like he has the leash to just run them out there and let the results be the results. I feel like he's kind of in that boat where he has to go and he has to win. Hopefully those guys are ready to go and ready to be significant contributors. They were top 100 prospects when they signed with Oklahoma. And then maybe you get a Forsyth and a Cole Attack, and they're able to add to your rotation a little bit too. But you need somebody that can come in and be a scorer. You need somebody that can come in and be a point guard for you. And I don't know if you've got that point guard on your roster right now. You got to find them in the transfer portal somewhere.
They need 2 or 3 guys, maybe 4 guys now out of the transfer portal that can come in and legitimately help things. Suarez was a big time addition, and it wasn't all that ballyhooed out of the transfer portal for Oklahoma. I mean, that was kind of like, oh, okay, well, great, you're adding this guy. And he wound up being down the stretch, arguably Oklahoma's best player. So the work is, the story's not totally written. Obviously the work's not done, but OU needs to find 3 or 4 guys, John, that can come in and calm things, can be difference makers straight away for OU. Because the other thing I worry about now is, let's just call the situation what it is. Porter Moser is coaching for his job. So this is a pressure-packed situation, and it's always pressure-packed. I gotcha. But this is not this is a high tense, stress filled situation that somebody would be walking into at OU. So getting the right kind of guys that can come in and, first of all, deliver to alleviate some of that, or, be ready to take that on the shoulders and go deliver with that is, I don't think, an easy task or an easy ask right now.
No, it's not at all. And if players are seeing that maybe there's not much of a settled coaching situation, at least for the long term, it may be difficult to recruit to it, but we'll see. Again, Porter Moser and his staff have done a good job retooling each offseason through the portal. This is going to be their biggest job yet. And that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in and being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all platforms and on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button over there as well, and the notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Wherever you get your podcasts, go drop us a 5-star review rating. Like it, share it. Let your friends, family know about the show as well. Follow Josh on Twitter at JoshOnRef here Monday through Friday from 9 to noon on the KRS Sports app. Follow me on Twitter at John9Williams. You can also read my work covering the Sooners over at thesoonerswire.com, part of USA Today. But until next time, he's Josh. I'm John. Boomer Sooner.